He's Hall of Famer, two-time NBA champ, 10-time All-Star, and coach of the boys basketball team at Gulliver Prep in Pinecrest, Florida. The former Big East Player of the Year, Ray Allen, back on the program. Ray, I was looking at your bio. You were in England. You were in Germany growing up, Air Force bases. Do you speak German?
No.
Okay.
I did a little bit when I was younger.
Okay. And then did you have an English accent when you lived in England?
When I was younger, I certainly could put one on.
Well, let me hear a little bit of your English accent.
Let me see. How are you?
Well, that sounded like Ray Allen.
Well, I mean, you can you depend on what part of the country, and it sounds a little different, but it needs a little work. If I went back to London, I think I can assimilate.
Did people make fun of you when you came to the United States with an English accent?
I didn't come with an English accent, but I was extremely proper. So when I came from England, I moved to California, so it kind of it fit in there. But then now going from California to South Carolina was when I was in trouble because I was way too proper for the kids that I went to school with when I was there.
Congrats on the 75th team, but I'm curious what happened behind the scene with the 75th anniversary. Everybody's putting on their jackets, and what was the mood like behind the scenes when everybody was there for the 75th anniversary team?
It was like a high school reunion. Just being, I'm walking in the room, and like when we first, you're going into the room, and on one side of the room, all the guys, the all-stars, were taking pictures before the game. And all of us were sitting in there with our jackets on, our 75th jackets. And I'm speaking with James Worthy, with Bill Walton, and Robert Parrish. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, I just, no matter what you accomplish in your career, you're sitting here like, I just remember when I was 10 watching James Worthy play basketball. And we'd come down the floor and we'd call ourselves the LA Lakers anytime we went on the fast break. And just having this moment, you go back to when you were a kid. And I think for most of us, that's kind of where it takes you, because you remember these kids. We're like a great song takes you back to your childhood or to a favorite moment of your life. That's what seeing these guys were like for me, like seeing them up close and personal, just reminded me of who I was growing up.
Did you walk up to Jordan?
Well, I see Jordan all the time. Like
playing golf?
I seen him last. I played with him the week before playing golf. So I see him all the time. But MJ, he actually, he was at Daytona, for for the race. So we were actually about to walk onto the court, and, magically he appears into the hallway. And then the first thing he says, he sees Magic as he comes through, and you guys seen it online. And he asked him if he had his tennis shoes with him, and we were talking about playing golf a little bit, and then Magic kind of appeared at the same time, and that's when that little conversation happened, and we just it was just quintessential Magic Jordan like we knew growing up. And to be able to be sitting here with these guys and calling them peers now is like it's so surreal.
But Mike can't turn it off. Like, it's always on. And he's there saying to Magic, hey, you got your shoes? Let's go. Play one-on-one.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I tell people all the time, like when you're playing a sport and you're so good at it, you're a competitor, you don't go home and stop being a competitor. You can't change your brain out. Like, you end up being that same person all the time. Now, you have to understand who you can compete with and how you compete with them. And, obviously you don't want to compete with your wife at home. And when I play basketball against my kids, I compete with them, but I show them, how the game works, and you're teaching them, but you still find ways to always challenge those people around you. And I think that's who M is, and that's who he's always been. And everybody, for that matter, that has made it to that level where you've been named the 75 greatest of all times, there's a reason for that, and a lot of times those reasons set you on that lonely path where you're sitting there saying to yourself, man, like, I'm doing this by myself, because the things that you've wanted in your life, not everybody has wanted. How come you got to shoot more? How come you're still on the floor? How come you won't hang out with us? Those times when you take that separate path are why the greats end up being the greats.
You also had to sacrifice your ego at some point in your career because when you first came into the league, I mean, you were getting 25 a game and you were dunking on people. And then, so you get to the Celtics and then is that where is it discussed that, okay, now I have to play a role, or what is my role with Paul Pierce and Garnett and Rondo?
Well, between Paul, myself, and Kevin, we had an understanding. We did an interview in the beginning of the year, and we were asked if it came to one last second shot between the three of you, who would take it? And the reporter asked us, but I want you to all answer at the same time. And so Paul answered me, Kevin answered me, and I answered the open person. So I think we walked into that season in the right frame of mind. Now, what I had just come from in Seattle, playing in Seattle, like it was shoot first, play fast, open, launching threes left and right, similar to how Golden State's playing today. So I remember in practice, I come down, launch a three, KG's on the block, posting up. Doc goes ham on me. You got to throw the ball down low to KG. He's wide open. You got to get him the ball.
That's a good imitation of Doc there.
Yeah. And I'm like, Doc, I was open. I want you to throw the ball inside out, and then he's going to find you. He's unselfish. And so, it was that position, that point where we were, you had to kind of rip apart and have those uncomfortable conversations early, where I wasn't going to be taking those shots quick, just like that in transition. I think over the course of our 5 years together, it evolved into that because Doc started to understand, what my capabilities were and who I was. And he saw it firsthand, what I was capable of doing. And even Kevin is unselfish as he was, on the block, setting screens. We started to understand that. But when you come together early, you do have to make those sacrifices. You do have to say, okay, I'm going to be 80% of who I've been in order for this team to win.
He's Ray Allen, Hall of Famer, two-time NBA champ. This is the last time I'll ask. How did the beef start with KG and Pierce and Rondo, and why did it end? How did it end?
I didn't have any beef. There wasn't anything
they have with you.
Yeah, and they were upset that I went to Miami, and for me, I was happy that I focused on the 5 years that we spent together and that we won in 2008. And that for me didn't change anything. So this past weekend, I was ecstatic to be there for Kevin because of, he and I grew up together. I remember him 14, 15 years old and, just the exuberance he had for the game of basketball. And, we had a kinsmanship as young people, and then obviously watching him make it to the league. So I was ecstatic for him to get his jersey retired, well-deserved. And I wouldn't have wanted to be any other place. So I never had any ill will towards any of them. It was just unfortunate because when you move on, like we all do at some point in our careers, I think it was more out of hurt and disappointment more than anything. But it's all good, and we're brothers. And the one thing that we have to just hold on to is what we did together, and that is more important than anything.
But when KG's on the microphone, and then next thing you know, he's calling you out.
Yeah.
Did you think, were you going to walk out there to KG?
Listen, we have to go back because when Paul got his jersey retired, I actually didn't know about it, and I was in LA. I had a commercial to shoot, and I happened, and this is a funny story because I was playing golf and it was about 12:30 in the afternoon, and I was playing with George Lopez and Anthony Anderson in LA, and George, he gets a hole in one, And so I was like, we jumped up and down and I was excited. And I was like, man, that was awesome. And then I posted it. Now, 12:30 on the West Coast is 3:30 on the East Coast. Paul was getting his jersey retired. He was in the garden and he's walking out there, and Kevin and Rondo and Doc and all of them were there. And so I posted a picture that I was there, and then everybody was making a big deal about it because I wasn't there. And I was like, I had no idea. And at that point, that was when I wasn't included, I wasn't invited. So when this came up, I was like, remember, I don't care what anybody says. I will always be a Celtic. And what happened in 2008 is always going to be one of my favorite moments in my life. And so you just had to get through this period, this tough time and just mend fences. And I think so when Kevin's jersey was being retired, I don't know if they knew I was going to be there, but I had on my schedule that I was going to be there. And when I showed up, I think he was surprised. I know Kendrick Perkins was surprised that I was there. It was great to walk back in the building, and I don't know how I was going to be received. I was assuming that some people would boo me because they still, upset. But when I walked in, it was amazing because everybody kind of cheered and celebrated. And then when he called me out, and he said it was good to see me in the building, I just had to walk up there and give him a hug because I know there's nothing scripted, and I didn't want to be unemotional in that moment or in a position where I was just like, what do I do? I was like, let me go get this man a hug, because not only is it good for he and I, but it's good for the people to see, so they understand, like, we're brothers. There's no ill will between us.
It was great to see, but I didn't expect to see it because I thought, you know what, I give you credit because you've never spoke ill of those guys, that you still have respect for them. But I realized KG was going to hold a grudge, and man, can he hold a grudge, Ray? Like, at the Hall of Fame, he's not even talking to you there, and you're in the room with him.
Yeah, and well, here's the thing. When we look at, I think about all the teams that won championships over the course of history in any sport. One of the great things about tradition, young people, young teams, college players, they look up and aspire to be like those championship teams. And you walk in the building, you see jerseys retired, and you see championships celebrated. And I give a lot of credit to Detroit, because I follow Rip Hamilton. He's a brother of mine, and he always is celebrating what they did in 2004 with the Pistons. Going back and somebody's getting their jersey retired, he's there. They're just at the games courtside, and I think for organizations that's huge. Just to have your former players show up to games. Like, I honestly believe, and tell me I'm strange, but I think all former players should have season tickets at the places that they used to play, just because you should have a footing in. And I'm not talking about the guy paying for it. I'm throwing it out there. Like, these teams should make sure that their guys are there. So the past play or the current players see it, and the fans understand the connection to their past. Because when you talk about the NBA now, you got so many teams with generations of fans. And just like I told you earlier, like, you connect to the organization based on how you grew up watching them. So to watch, if you're a Milwaukee Buck fan and you see Oscar Robertson walk back in the building, or Kareem, or Bobby Dandridge, you're like, man, these guys were my heroes. And I think every organization should have that connection to their past.
You wanted to be a Laker?
I did. That was my first NBA game. I was 12 years old in my high school. My coach at the time, he said, I walk out on the court. It's the Fabulous Forum at the time. And they're playing the Pistons. I think this was 1988. Bill Laimbeer shooting on one side, Kareem skyhooking on the other. Like, first time ever seen an NBA player. And he said, I'll give you $20 if you go get Kareem's autograph. And so I didn't say yes, I didn't say no, but what I did, and this was me as a kid, just understanding and being observant. I walked down there and I see other people just kind of watching them shoot before the game, and Kareem just focused, just shooting. And it was astounding to me because they didn't miss. But they're there early. And I watched other kids scream his name and he didn't even flinch, didn't even look in their direction. So I kept my mouth shut because I was like, I'm learning my lesson. Like, I'm not about to ask for autograph. And then my coach knew. He was like, Kareem never signs autographs, but he was going to give me that $20 if I got it. But just imagining if I got his autograph, then even to me, and I don't think this way, but just you think about value from 1988, would I still have it? Would I have kept it? Like, you just never know. But that was my early introduction to the NBA. And for me, and I seen Kareem walk in the room, and I've never told Kareem the story. And when he walked in the room, I seen him during the Final Four a couple of years ago, and then I seen him this week, the All-Star Weekend, and I thought, man, this was the guy that started off for me.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Congrats. I don't know if congrats is the right word, but I'm glad that you had a good month here because you didn't do anything wrong, but you did. We don't realize the competitiveness, the pettiness. That this means everything in the world to these guys. And it's hard to, you guys haven't played in how long? And KG's still holding on to that because it meant so much to him. And how dare you leave them? And, you're just trying to better your career. But it was a great moment. Great moment. I'm glad you walked on the floor. And I appreciate you talking about it, Ray.
Yeah. And it's fitting, thank you for saying that, but it's fitting that I'm sitting here talking to you on St. Patrick's Day. So, thank you for, I don't got no green on, but I got some green around me.
Well, you've been cleaning your teeth there? Great.
Yeah.
You've been flossing your teeth there?
Yeah.
Well,
I try to stay away from the dentist.
Two great shooters, and, my guys bring it up to me occasionally that I did try to correct you with the ball placement in your hand that day when you came into the man cave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You might be KG and I might be you. You might hold that grudge against me for a long time.
No, the thing about a grudge, Dan, is you hold a grudge, that means I'm living in your head rent free, or you're living in my head, and I got to move past that.
All right. I still feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever corrected you on your shooting form?
Yeah, people have tried.
Okay.
I remember I had a coach come into Milwaukee. He was like, it was like my fourth or fifth year, and I had already made the All-Star team. And he was like, you take the ball low first, and you can't do that, And he was adamant about it. And I was looking at him. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do, but this is kind of, I go
it's
here.
Been working. It's been working for me.
It's working out for me. And I think even more so for all the kids that are listening. Reggie was a great example for me because when we're kids, we're striving for perfection. People are trying to teach us perfection. And then there's a point when you get older where our bodies are just what they are. We can't do certain things that other people can do. Like you can't, when you think about a golf swing later on in life, you just can't get that turn the way, certain kids can. So you got to teach a person based on what they have, what's available physically. And so, Reggie, he crosses his hands when he shoots, but he's a perfectionist at working at it and figuring it out. And so once I saw how he shot, I was like, however I shoot, I just got to be really good at and understand where my deficiencies are. Like I know which side of the floor I'm quicker on than the other. So I got to work a little bit harder and understanding eye dominance. So you rotate a little bit faster. Once you understand those things, then you can kind of keep it the same on every side of the floor.
Always great to talk to you. Final 10 seconds. He got game 2. What's the update?
It is stagnant.
Okay.
Listen, we need Denzel Washington on board.
Right.
If Denzel's on board, he's got Spike is ready to do this thing. So
Paulie, would you see if we can get a hold of Denzel?
On it.
See if I can move this along for
Ray.
Ray.
On it, please. People are calling for it. They want it.
Thank you, Ray. Great to talk to you again, buddy.
See you too, Dan.
Thanks. That's Ray Allen, Hall of Famer. Take a break. Back after this.